Like no one's perfect. Nothing's perfect. And the thing with acting, perfection's boring. No one wants to see a story about a perfect person. That's lame. Like we want vulnerability. We want cracks to show. There was a time where I was losing out jobs because I looked a little, oh, well, she's too put together. She's too pretty. She's too this. It's always she's too something. She's too this. She's too that. And it was when I stopped trying to be this perfect picture of something where I became more human and relatable.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. 250 episodes. What a ride. What an experience. Thank you, everyone. Without you, this couldn't be done. And of course, to my wonderful guests, I'll keep this short. I never thought I would be able to do 10 podcasts, let alone 250. 5 years doing this still feels crazy to me. The podcast has evolved in so many brilliant ways that I never thought were possible. I remember the first one like it was yesterday. I appreciate you all. Thank you for your support. It allows me to speak to so many brilliant speakers. Even liking, commenting, sharing posts, following, subscribing, etc. helps me in more ways than you can possibly imagine. Here's to the next 5 years and plenty more. Thank you, and let's introduce today's epic guest. I don't even know where to begin. This was soothing, honest, real, and an authentic chat with an ease and flow of conversation. What a delight. AJ is just a wonderful, all-around human being. She's an advocate for life, and I love it. Her energy is radiating and beautiful, with the lightness of being and passion for her craft, which is wonderful, contagious, and inspiring. AJ doesn't typically do many of these chats, and I'm beyond grateful that she came on. We dive into so many wonderful topics. I really appreciate her learnings from the highs as well as the lows. It can be less than easy to move forward and acknowledge the growth and light from potentially traumatic experiences. It's a rare trait, and I love hearing it. Anyway, I love her. I'll stop rambling. Let's get into it. AJ Cook is an actor and director who's best known for a role as Special Agent Jennifer, or JJ, in the CBS long-running series Criminal Minds. She can currently be seen reprising her role on Criminal Minds Evolution for Paramount+. The new season has just started. AJ's also directed an episode of Criminal Minds Evolution this season and did so in season 14 of Criminal Minds as well. AJ's film credits include The Virgin Suicides, Out Cold, Back Fork, and Final Destination 2. Her voiceover work can be heard as the narrator for the audiobook One of Our Own by Lucinda Berry. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about the power of the beach, leaving and coming back to Criminal Minds, directing, letting go, moving to LA from Canada, self-authenticity, and being true to yourself, perfectionism, mindset shifts, being partially blind, hustle, plus plenty more. Before we get into this epic chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out at 3:30 Melbourne, Australian time, with the full video of the podcast to be released the following day. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's get into it. I'd love you to tell me what the beach in your beach house does for your soul.
Oh,
Love it.
everything. I mean, I feel so lucky. So I am Canadian, and I grew up in those brutal, harsh winters. And Even as a child, I just remember, I mean, the mornings are always the worst when you have to get out of bed and you're just freezing. And I would go straight to the bathroom and get out the hair blow dryer and shove the hair blow dryer down my my shirt, and with
Just
like a blanket wrapped around me, and just sit there with hot air. And the whole time, even as a kid, thinking, I can't wait to get, like, who enjoys this cold? I can't wait to leave this cold. I love Canada. Don't no one take that the wrong way. I love Canada, but I am not built for cold. So I've never been good with it. So cut to me living here now in California. It's pretty great. And I'm also a water person. There's just something about water that like soothes my soul. So the fact that I get to hear the waves crashing, and the beach is essentially my backyard, and this is where my kids get to run around and play. It's, for a Canadian, that's, I feel like I'm winning. It's pretty great. It's very soothing to the soul. And it's funny, a lot of people, obviously my show or this industry, I'm not in Hollywood, and that is by choice. But I get a lot of questions saying, oh, what, like, what, that drive, how do you do that drive? And I just say, because I get to go home to that. That's worth it. That's so worth it. Like, we all sit in traffic, doesn't matter where you live in LA, but the fact that I get to come home to this, where it feels like I'm completely disconnected and separated from my work and my industry, is everything. And it's completely, it's magic for the soul.
Okay, I love you. This is amazing. I'm so glad that you can talk about it in this way. We'll come back to that side of not being close to Hollywood. I think that's very smart of you. You said something that really intrigues me, that water like nourishes your soul. Did you always know this? Because in Canada, you might not be able to go to the beach, or especially Toronto, potentially. Did you know that water always, like, when did you realize that water was actually so important for you?
If for as long as I can remember being alive, like, water is, I don't know what it is about water. And if you want to get all like hippy dippy and blah, 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 I'm a Cancer. So I'm a water sign. I'm actually a triple water sign. So there's always been something about water for me. I've always loved swimming. It's funny. I think about this now that I'm an adult, but we had some family friends who had a pool, and they were really good friends with our family. And all of my siblings had kids their age in their family. And I was like the odd duck. I didn't have anyone that was my age in that family. So I didn't have like a best friend over there, but I would like call them all the time and ask if I could just come over and swim like by myself, like a real cool person. But like I needed water. I love water. I would just be in the water all day. I was literally a water baby.
So cool that you found that, because I think everyone is more attracted to some aspects of nature or the world, and I don't know mine, so I'm positively jealous that you found yours. Sometimes it's like hiking, but yeah.
It's that for me too. It truly is. It's the outdoors. I love it. I mean, just the earth and disconnecting from all of this. I truly need it all. I really do.
It's a really interesting point, because I've spoken to so many people, and there's no judgment whatsoever. I understand the Hollywood game. Like, you feel you need to be in it, and if you're not in it, you're missing out. Am I not going to get this opportunity? I need a network. And that's the same with a lot of industries as well. But being able to have that foresight, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you being happy and grounded and present, and obviously loving your environment with your family outweighs the potential, oh, I need to be in Hollywood, and hearing that, because that would, to me, make me so ungrounded and living in the future. And that just feels for me like I would live a very anxious life if I was in an environment that wasn't serving me. But at the same time, every actor, and other professions as well, but every actor doesn't know when they're going to get their next job. So you can feel like you need to be there. So I'd love to know, because I feel like this would have been a journey. I'm sure you would have had these moments where you're like, am I too far away? Or what's kind of the relationship there that keeps on making you stay there?
Well, I I stayed away as long as I possibly could. Like so when I finally did make the move to Hollywood, I mean, it was probably past due. I probably should have moved here earlier, but I was in no rush to get here. And I think that's like, I think that, I don't know if it's like a problem with what I do is a bit, I'm not that, I don't need to be in the middle of it. I don't want to be. It's, it's my job, it's my work, and I love it. I love it, but I love the process and the art of it and the creativeness of it. I don't like the other side of it. And some people are so good at that, and I wish I had more of that in me. I truly do. I'm envious of that. But that's the thing. I think you have two types in this industry. You have the artist that's like the really, we were shy and quiet as kids, and like the introvert, and like acting and being creative and performing is like an outlet, and it's like they need it to survive.
Yeah.
And then there's the type, like the extrovert who's just thrives in that, and it's about the scene, and it's about the relationships and the networking. And I've always been so envious of that, because that's not who I am. And I've had to give myself a little bit of a break on that, because I used to really get down on myself that I wasn't out there, doing it. But that's just not, it feels unauthentic for me to be out there doing it. And I'm too shy anyway to like make anything happen. So no, when it was finally time to make this move, my husband and I got off the plane, rented a car, and literally started driving down the coast, because that was the only way we were going to do it. If we had to make the move, we wanted to live somewhere beautiful by the ocean, and that was a release and a departure from what my job was. And that's what we did. And
I love that.
It was really lovely. We got really lucky, and we were driving down the coast, and the first place we ever had here, the guy was literally out there like hammering in the for rent sign as we drove past it. And it was just meant to be. And we've been in this area ever since. We love it here. It's such a community, and it's beautiful.
That is someone that follows their intuition. That is such a crazy story. Get off a plane, you drive, you literally see someone doing the sign, and you and your partner just looking, go, this is the place I need to be. I love hearing stories like that. And I think it's
great.
It's also really important, because I'm similar to you in the sense, well, every single person, we feel we need to be a certain person. We feel need to, like salespeople, we need to go out there and get those sales. But every single person, how they manage and thrive with their energy is completely different. We're all unique. And I also, and I still do, have similar moments to you where I feel like I need to be going out and networking and selling my scripts, or writing scripts for 10 hours a day. That doesn't work for me. I know you're laughing, so I feel like you've gone through the journey as well. When did you realize that I know it's a journey, but you now seem to be at a place where it's okay for you to be you. You don't need to be someone else. I know that's very loaded, but was there because you mentioned that you were quite hard on yourself. What's that relationship like now?
Well, I think it's just with age and wisdom comes a certain degree of, does it matter? Like, what truly matters? And your priorities shift, and you get better at being able to answer that question in your mind, of truly knowing what matters. I think when you're younger, you don't know yet, and you're just trying to figure it out, especially in a new place and like everything's new, like a new industry, a new job, and you're trying to get a job, and you're trying to make friends, which is next to impossible in this town. It can be. So it's brutal. So you feel like you got to get out there and hustle. And actually, you know what? My castmate, Kirsten Bangsness, one year said to me, because we were coming up on a hiatus, and I was in the process of getting this movie that was going to shoot overseas. And, it was just like the rigmarole of all of it, and like the high stakes and the pressure and the anxiety. And it just felt like I was like running a million miles an hour. And I said something like, it feels like such a hustle. And she just looked at me and she goes, maybe you shouldn't hustle. Maybe it shouldn't be a hustle. And like, it was so loaded, but it landed so clearly in my heart. But that's who she is. She's a Cancer as well. So yeah. So because she saw that I was like, it's a lot. And, she knows what I'm juggling. Like, I've got a family and I've got kids, and then the working, and then trying to get like a movie in between your seasons of the show, which I normally don't do, but I was doing it. I was like chasing that. And she saw it and she was like, maybe it shouldn't be such a hustle. And I was just like, oh, damn you for seeing me. But it really landed, and it was really good advice. Because it shouldn't feel like a hustle if it's right. There should be some true enjoyment and passion in there to make it exciting and like it's something you want to do. But if it just feels like a hustle and you're just, just trying to like, keep your head above water, that's something different. And she helped. In that moment, she gave me the gift of being able to distinguish between the two. So
okay, brilliant. It's life advice. And what springs to mind? What springs to mind for me is that sometimes we do things because we have to. And I'm sure it would have been a nice opportunity. I'm assuming you didn't go ahead with it. Oh, okay. So the example that springs to mind, like I had my first ever like TV deal, and
yay.
I was yes. And even though it didn't work out, the yay still applies. Offered this deal from, an LA production company. They've achieved a lot in their career. I'll just leave it at that. And it felt like such a grind. And bear in mind, I've got the blinkers on. This is going to like start my screenwriting career. I'm going to have my own TV show and projecting. I'm going to have 5 seasons. I'm going to star in my show, all this stuff, which obviously wouldn't have happened. But I'm really projecting. And on top of that, could just feel how heavy it was. It was such a grind. But I realized that why is this so difficult and so hard? And luckily someone else, or actually a lawyer and my dad, gave me similar advice. And they're like, if it's really this hard at the start, do you think it's going to get any easier? And luckily it didn't work out. But if I didn't receive that advice, then who knows what that relationship would have been? Who knows how far it could have gone? And that would have been horrible. That would have pushed me. I'm sure the quality of the script would have been worse on the show. Anyway, my point is that advice is really powerful, because sometimes we feel we need to chase something, but we're potentially chasing it not for our right reasons. It's not authentic to us. And especially in this industry, you might have agents and managers telling you like, you have to go for this or meet this person or do this. It's going to open up so many doors.
Stay relevant. You must stay relevant at all times.
Please tell me that blows my mind.
Well, going back to that thing I was saying about the hustling, it was, I think, because I hadn't done a movie in a minute, and my career started in movies, and then doing television. I took a break. I mean, I'm so lucky that like the show was so successful and kind of just kept on keeping on. But there's that pressure of like, oh, well, that's not who I am. I make movies and I'm the indie girl, and, just trying to make it back to that side of your career. So there's that pressure there. And I had already had my first son, so I had taken some time for that. And this movie came up, and, it's funny you said, I assume you didn't do it. Well, I did. I got it, but it was just like, the whole thing was just so stressful. And there was just something that wasn't, I mean, nothing's easy in this industry. Like nothing is. Nothing worth having is easy to get or achieve, but there has to be the passion behind it. You have to want to put that energy into it. It has to feel right. So there was always something a little about it. And I had to kind of figure out, well, is it fear? Am I afraid? Am I afraid that it's going to be a flop? Am I afraid this is the first movie I'm going to be starring in a really long time? And I'm also leaving my family for the first time. And there was so much attached to it. So once I found out I got it, that hustle part of it kind of started to calm down. But,
cool.
In hindsight, I shouldn't have done it. It took a toll on me. It did. And my family, and it wasn't the right thing. And I think that's why it felt the way it did in the moment, is because I was trying to jam myself into a square hole when I was not. Actually, I'm a square. Let's say I'm always a square. I'm the square. I was trying to jam my square body into this triangle. And it just didn't. So it's funny because, your gut always tells you. It's a matter of if you are willing to listen to it. But going back to the relevant thing, I had a lot of people like, hey, you got to stay relevant. You got to stay relevant. Yeah. And, you started in movies and I was putting that pressure on myself too. Of like, oh, I gotta make that movie. I gotta make that movie. And now's the time. When it wasn't, but, it's that pressure of just always feeling like you have to be there and relevant and part of it. That is something for me that has seriously calmed down inside of me as I've matured and my priorities have shifted, and just seeing the industry a little more clearly. And I'm okay. I don't need to be that indie movie girl anymore. And if someday maybe I can circle back to that, but it's not like this crazy pressure that I have to put on myself, because that gets nothing done ever.
I agree. And that's a very rare outlook, and congratulations to you, because there is, even I feel it, and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm in it. It's like screamed at us. And to have that awareness that, one, like, I know you're going to be fine, or we're going to be fine. And it's going back to you, like trusting you and knowing that what you want and how you live your life is very different. I think that's so remarkable. And also acknowledging the fear within us. Some of it's real, some of it's not. That's a journey. Not everyone gets there. We still, and I'm sure there's still a relationship there, but that's awesome of you to come back to that. And I also, on that movie experience, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, you said there were the negatives there, but what a lesson that you could, and hopefully
yeah. Yeah, but that's how we have to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, someone can tell you something over and over and over again, but until it's your lived experience, it doesn't resonate the same way. Some things, it's like, oh, okay, don't drink poison. Cool, I got you. I'm not going to do that. I don't need to try that for myself. But then there's those other life lessons where you truly need to live it in order to know it.
Agreed. And, especially like, for example, Criminal Minds, I assume the schedule is quite hectic, and it would be hard, especially with a family and everything going on in your life. There's probably a limited opportunity to get additional work within that period. So as you're alluding to, you feel like you have to get something, but then you also need a break and relax. And, there might be, if you've signed on, that there might be the work the following year. I know it hasn't always worked out like that, which we'll get into, but just knowing that in the moment that you're okay, you don't need to necessarily do something just because you feel you have to. I'm surprised at such a young age that you've been able to figure it out.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to have some real harsh lessons in this industry. And like I said, there's no better teacher than life, than going through all of it. So, yeah.
I like that attitude. And I think we're alluding to, and there's probably 100 examples, but you've got a smile, and I'm very proud of you from all the research that I've done. There was, and we can just skim through it. We don't need to relive it. You can go as much detail as you want, because I know you've spoken about it before, and we move forward. But there was that, and I've had Paget Brewster on the podcast. And
Paget, yes. I listened to hers. She's like, that's a person I get to hang out with all the time, like.
I'm jealous of you.
Oh, so great.
She's so cool and authentic.
Yep.
And I think she's amazing. People can listen to it. We discuss many things, including what we're about to talk about now. And please correct me, I'm just going to give a small snapshot. Criminal Minds been on the show since, I think, episode 2, been on it for so many seasons, very popular show. And for strange reasons, let's just put it there, they get rid of you. And Paget, strange is probably not the best word, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they get rid of you for what seems like ridiculous reasons. You're part of this cast. This is your family. This is what you love. This is also income for you. You get to see people like Paget. This is your life. And they get rid of you for ridiculous reasons. And Paget talks about it, and I don't want to misquote her, but there was so many emotions. And what I found, one of the many things I found really inspiring about her is she talks about the anger. And naturally, we all have it. And she talked about how it plagued her. And then she realized at some point she had to let go. And she was able to see, and we're not excusing certain behaviors, but she was able to see the beauty in the lessons that she'd learned and the opportunities that were given to her. And then she also had a mindset shift. And that's a very rare human. Not everyone can do that. That's astonishing. But anyway, that's kind of a bit of the snapshot. You end up coming back, which is great. I just love to know, there would have been 1,000 different emotions. You would have been angry. You would have been confused. It would have felt like a boyfriend broke up with you that you were really attached to, and you probably would have thought it's your fault. And now we know it's not your fault. All these emotions would have come through, and it would have made you bitter and potentially also take away from your creativity because you're in that. And I would have been so much worse than everyone else. I would have taken it so personally. But anyway, you've obviously done a significant amount of mindset shifts and work on yourself. I'd love to know how you kind of got through that period and what were some of the shifts you went through.
Yeah, that was a wild time. So I did listen to Paget's podcast with you, and she's remarkable. And I love her honesty with all of it. And I love that she speaks on the anger, because she was livid, and rightfully so. And I can't imagine going through that without her. In a way, there was this strength in the numbers of, like, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just her. It was the both of us. You're two leading ladies, and you're just gonna, there's the door. It was bizarre. And I we still, there's so many theories going around. And I don't even care to know, because whatever, they're allowed to do what they want. At the end of the day, they can do whatever they want. But it was, we all felt blindsided, of course. But I think they were trying to do something else with the show. It's back when they were trying to do the spinoff with Forrest Whitaker and that whole thing. And I think when they were dissecting our show to make this new, fancy, cooler show, they were like, well, I don't know. Why is she on it? I don't know. Who is this? Like, I don't know. I think they were kind of like, well, what does she do? And again, there's so many theories about what went on there. But yeah, it was a strange thing. I'll never forget that phone conversation. I was on my way home. I was on a road trip back from like a family vacation, and my son's in the back seat. Like, I'm like, what? Like, huh? What's happening? But yeah, you feel very, for me, it was like instant, just like I started crying, because I I'm like, what did I do? And then you just keep going down that rabbit hole of like, well, what did I do? Did I piss someone off? Like, did I do something that I'm unaware of? And you just, you'll run yourself crazy, thinking about those things. But, and then I heard that they let Paget go too. And I was just like, this just doesn't make any sense. What is happening? And I kept very quiet because I'm a very private person. I always have been. So I wasn't vocal at all. I just kind of like dug a hole and hid in it. Whereas Paget was very vocal, and she gave me the strength that I needed of like, this wasn't right. This was kind of weird and bizarre and out of left field. But, she gave me the strength I think that I needed to hold my head up, because I was embarrassed. I was like, I'm never going to work again. Like, I don't even know what I did, but someone somewhere thinks I suck. And someone with a lot of power thinks that. So I had a difficult time with it, being the Cancer I am, climbed up into my shell. But Paget was very, she was not shy about how angry she was. And anyway, long story short, I ended up coming back. We both did. She took a little more time to kind of work through all of it. And thank God she did, because she wasn't ready to come back until she was ready. And we're so happy that she made that decision and that she was ready to come back, because that's, our show's not our show without her. So yeah, it was strange. And I think one of the weirdest things for me was, this is nothing against, they brought an actress in that was like, no, she looks identical to me. She was just like younger and had bigger boobs. I was just like, what am I supposed to like? So what it did to me, like, it made me feel terrible, and just like the self-worth, and like, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't skinny enough. I wasn't tall enough. All of the, I'm not enough, fill in the blank. I went through all of that. And this is not a slight to her at all. She's lovely. This has nothing to do with her. And I feel bad for her that she was even put in that situation. Like, that wasn't cool. Like, the whole thing just wasn't cool. But, thank God the fans, I had no, and this is another silver lining that came out of this. Like, I had no idea that people cared so much, that our fans, they really rallied behind us. And that was like, it just felt like the biggest, warmest hug ever, in a time where you needed the biggest, warmest hug. And I am forever grateful to the fans that stood up and said, no, we love this show. Don't ruin our show. I think, I don't know if this is true. I didn't fact check it or anything, but I was told that they sent like a truck of lipstick to CBS, and with a note that said, kiss your female viewers goodbye, after they fired the two of us.
Wow.
And yeah. So, that was something else for me, because I'm a quiet, I'm a private person. And to have something public like that happen was really uncomfortable for me, like really uncomfortable. I don't want to be noticed. I don't want to make noise. I just want to live my life and be a good person, and,
Real thing.
Have life be great. So it was really difficult to go through that, but man, that was a life lesson, and then some, just to learn that I can hold my head up and not make myself go through that mental torment of like, what did I do? And, it's good to have like some self-reflection. Absolutely. But when you're trying to make sense of something where there wasn't necessarily sense to be made.
That's also hard in that sense because, and I'm very proud of you to go through all of that. You could have quit, been negative. You could have allowed it. And I'm sure that there's, maybe wounds is not the right example, but it's still.
Oh no, there's scar tissue. There is a lot of scar tissue there for sure.
Because of all the things you've said, and it's massive, and the real mind fuck to say the least. And this is what I love. So not only have you, first of all, talking about it is, thank you for doing that. I think it's really important that people can see that you can rise above extremely stressful situation. But to not let it destroy you, to quit acting something that you love, which would have been, no one would have said anything, something you still love. And despite all of that, all the mind games, and you're probably hearing crap that you don't know it's true or not. And
yeah, a lot of noise.
Exactly. And despite all of that times 100, and we've just skimmed it, that for you to come back, that's amazing. You would still have that, and realizing, despite maybe you as an executive, it doesn't matter, but let's just say like executives or people, that you could still go, you know what, I like this. I'm not going to let that crazy situation impact me, and actually come back. And then you've thrived within it. And we'll talk about some of the cool stuff that's come from that. Rare trait, rare human. You could be bitter and let it impact you. Like, these are your friends, this is your cast, this is a role that you've thrived in. You could just say no. But it seems like you did it on your terms. You were willing to come back. And there would be no shame in not coming back whatsoever. And I'm glad that you processed in your own way. Can you speak more to that? Because that's very cool.
Well, I mean, we were a family. When you work that closely with people, like my castmates really rallied behind me. Like Kirsten was so 100% behind Paget and myself. And, it was just lovely, like the relationships that were real just deepened even more so. And the relationships that weren't were shown, and those got out of my way, and I didn't have to focus on those. So that was a blessing as well. But also, coming back to the show, the silver lining there was that it gave us an opportunity to make this character fuller. And, there was sort of it's funny. I look back at these early episodes of Criminal Minds, and honestly, there's a part of me that's like, I don't know how I got that part. I look like I was 12 years old. I'm like, who was I convincing that I was an FBI agent? I mean,
a lot of people.
Come on. So I get that. I get that maybe some people thought, oh, that wasn't right. But the heartache and those trials that I went through made me a stronger person, and it made JJ a stronger person. And we were able to really write, for the first time, a full character storyline for her. And it really made her a fuller character. And I'm grateful for it. And it's funny, when you're in those moments and you just think the world's ending, you're like, oh, well, this is it. Okay, cool. Well, that was fun while it lasted. I'll have to go find another job somewhere else now. But it's funny how those down times, there really are silver linings, and it will take you to something better. And it's hard to see at the time, but there's a plan. There's something ahead, and to just be able to trust that, and just put your head down and go with it and let it unfold is really a beautiful thing. And, it took me a moment it back there in that time, because I thought, well, maybe this is a sign. My time here is done, and now I need to go find the next thing. And I was open to that. I was so open to that, because if I'm being honest, I was frustrated. I was a little frustrated playing JJ in the beginning, because she couldn't, I don't know, there were things that she wasn't allowed to do. And so, I was open to whatever it was going to be. And I'm so happy that it took me back there in a different way, because I love everyone over there. And it was just such a gift to get to go back there as kind of reborn. And it's the audience got to see her be reborn too. Because I think if we took that shift with JJ without all of the messiness of the real life stuff, I don't think we would have been able to sell it as well. But the fandom was so invested and so behind it that they were just so rallying behind JJ and Emily. And what we were able to do with those storylines from there was really a gift, and not something that we could have done had we not been fired. So it's interesting how things unfold. They never unfold the way you think they should.
No, we say no to the trauma, but and I'm not just saying this because I think it's brilliant. I wrote down a few words. You said reborn, gratitude, a gift. They got to make your character more, I forgot what the word was, but like more whole or more fleshed out. And obviously we don't want to have such large experience in that sense. But despite all of that, to come back in this moment, as you said, there's still scar tissues, but talk about all the wonderful opportunities. We're all going to have highs and lows, some more highs, some more lows, and that's life. But despite all of that, and I'm not just keep on saying this because it's contagious, it's catchy. I'm very proud of you. I'll say it 100 times. Despite all of that, you've given not just like, oh, it was good because I got to come back. It was like, bam, 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 all these amazing things. And I'm sure you also got as you said, a new lease on life. You would have learned so much stuff about yourself. Sometimes when the darkness comes through us, I know it might sound like a weird metaphor, you probably became a way more courageous person. Maybe the bravery, realized how much stronger you are. And, looking back at it now, and I don't want to comment on that, but just the experience that you've got in that, the reborn, the authenticity, the gratitude, the silver linings, learning about yourself. Fantastic. Rare human. Yes, I'm just rambling. Congratulations to you. And I'm glad that you could come back on your terms and what you wanted. And also, just as a side comment, you talk about the fans, and you're not lying. When I was doing all the research on this, people always say, and they're right, the fans are so important, but you actually mean the fan. There were so many other things, even like, I don't ever read the comments, but we're talking like tens of thousands of people like rallying for you. That is great. That never happens, or I'm not aware of it. So many people, and also your cast, they love you, and they loved you, and the whole thing. That would have been really nice to know that.
It was truly an amazing experience. But there's also like the other side of that, which I can't believe I'm even going to say this, but there's that whole like worthiness thing too that I struggle with, of like, because I'm such a private person, and like, I don't read anything. I don't like social media. I don't do it just because it doesn't matter if you're saying something good or bad about me. It just the idea that like someone has an opinion about me that doesn't actually know me. It's like a weird mind thing,
It's very smart of you too, because even if they like know you, like, I agree. It's not.
I'm so sensitive. I'm just so sensitive, and I'm a people pleaser. Like, I just want to make everyone happy. And so when you can't, it's impossible to do that. And I'm learning that in life, that you can't do that. It's impossible. And what a silly thing to even want. But it's when like a whole fandom like rallies behind you for a personality type like that, it can like, it feels weighty too, because you're just like, oh gosh, am I worthy for this? And I don't want to let people down. And I hope they see the only thing I can do is show up at work and show up in my performances, and that that is my love letter to the fans. Is I put it all out there for them. Like, it's literally for them, because I don't spend a lot of time on social media. I don't even do like podcast. I don't do stuff like this.
Yeah.
But I think you're so wonderful, and I just love what you do. And this whole, like, your twist on failure is just, it's exactly how I feel about failure. So I absolutely wanted to do this, but it's,
thank you.
I guess that's what I want the fans to know, is that I'm not out there. I'm not, overtly in your face at all times. And it's not because I don't love you guys. It's actually the opposite. I'm just a sensitive flower, and my love letter to the fans is the show and what I give to it every day. And I will do that till the day I die, because I'm so grateful to have this job and to get to play this character that we've like grown up watching, and we've watched her grow up before our eyes and then have her own children. And it's a privilege and an honor to get to play this character that you guys rallied behind. So blood, guts, and tears, it's for you guys.
I love that. And I love that you can recognize within yourself, the social media game's not for everyone. I'm actually surprisingly very similar to you. I think it's actually very healthy what you're doing, so you can maintain the love for you and your craft, and that you said that like a poet. Last thing before we move on, we can talk about directing, because that's also been an amazing opportunity for you. Looking back at this whole experience, you don't need to name them, but isn't it just lovely to, you've spoken about so much stuff, but to see what you've learned about yourself? Do you look back at that experience despite all, the negatives, and say, you know what, I can do this, I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I can actually deal with so much more. I understand the industry. And I'm not comparing situations. At a small level, there's a little bit of similarity, with my TV show deal. It did make me stronger and realize that, because I'm quite naive in that sense. Not everyone is all loving, and it's not always just like sunshine and rainbows. And I'm very grateful for that experience. Would I want it again? No, but I'm glad that I learned the lesson. So, yeah.
Well, it's because of those negatives that I'm able to sit here today and hold my head up and know that I can weather the storm and be better for it. But I needed to learn all those lessons, because I was a naive little Canadian girl who, sorry, like that's who I was. And I'm still that girl, but I know that I am capable of so much, and everyone is. And failure, see, I don't even like the word failure, because failure to me is like, oh, that didn't work. What's next? What's the next step? Let's try this. Failure is one step closer to success in my book. So and which is why I love this podcast that you do, because failure is necessary. It shows you who you can be and who you're meant to be. And in this industry, it can be so scary, right? It's so fast moving, and you're only as good as your last thing. And, there's so many personalities and egos involved, which I do feel is changing. So that's good. I just feel like there's a lot of really great, decent people in this industry.
That's beautiful to hear.
Yeah. And in this next chapter in my life, I love directing, I love creating, and I love being on the other side of the camera. I love acting. I will always love acting, but I need more. I want more. And I'm such a creative thinker. And it took me a long time to understand that about me, because even as a child, I just never saw things the same way as everybody else. And I think I spent a great deal of my life trying to think like everyone else. And looking back as an adult with children, I just think, what a shame. What a shame that I wasted all of that time and energy trying to be like everyone else.
The conforming game.
That's what makes these juggernauts, these creatives, these people that run the industry, that's what makes them so wonderful, is that they're just unapologetically themselves, and they bring a fresh take to something, and it's something that we can relate to, but we don't get to at all times because it hasn't been put out there yet, and we're just waiting for those new fresh takes on things. And I think that's been one of the biggest lessons for me, is it's okay to think differently. It's okay to see things a certain way, because that's what directing is. Everyone gets the same script, and it's the director's honor to see the movie in their head as they read that script. They get to put that on the screen. It's their interpretation. And that's been one of the coolest things about seeing some of my castmates direct, or just seeing anyone direct. I've always been obsessed with people's thought process and how they see things. I'm just a very curious person, not judgmental at all. Like, I have zero judgment behind any of that. I love getting into other people's minds and seeing, oh, how did you get to there? Oh, that's so cool. That's so unique and so uniquely you. And we need you, just as we need you and we need you. Like, we need everybody's opinions. We need everybody's viewpoints. And then that's how the art comes together. It's so beautiful. And it's such a collaborative process. And I love it. I'm hoping that this next step for me is making more movies, directing, producing, and I'm actively working toward that right now. And it's such a joy and but it's scary. So circling back to what we were talking about before is, it feels like a hustle, but it's a different kind of hustle. I think there's that fear is just innately there. It's there when you're trying something you've never done before. That whole imposter syndrome thing starts to get really loud in your head, and you start to second guess yourself, and you're like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do this, and maybe it's not as great as I thought it was going to be. But it's hard. It's hard work. Getting anything developed is so hard. It's amazing that anything ever gets made.
I'm always surprised.
It's a grind. It is a grind, but you have to have the passion behind it. Otherwise, if that passion's not there, it's not getting made. So you just have to it's about finding like the right projects that move you and really light that fire underneath you.
I was just thinking that.
I found some, and it's the most exhilarating feeling ever. And it's a total roller coaster of emotions, because you're like, oh my gosh, this is going great. And you're like, okay, okay, well, I learned from that. Okay. Oh, let's go here. It's wild, and it's just a never ending process, but you have to have the passion behind it. And I truly do. I love the creative outlet. It's everything to me.
I have 10,000 points.
Sorry, I really yammered on there.
No, that was brilliant. The way that you lit up speaking about something that you love is I
know. Sorry, I'm such a nerd.
This is why I do the podcast. Someone can speak about, and I think I've said this before, someone can speak about gardening, which I don't particularly love. But when I hear the passion and enthusiasm, it is contagious. Like, you surround yourself in that love. I know it might sound a bit corny.
I wish everyone passion, whatever that is, just find that passion, because that's it. That's what it's all about. Sorry, go on.
No. No sorry's needed. And
I know. Sorry.
Just as a side point, like, for example, one of my friends, he doesn't have that much, like, something that really lights his fire. He thinks it needs to be a job. And if you don't have that for your job, that's okay. But he found it in gardening. And to see to see that him light up. So that's what he'll do on the weekends. And I'm like, that's so great, because I thought you have to do it as a job. And I love what I do. Don't get me wrong. But I thought it had to only be in a career. And it's nice to know, because I always say, like, find your job and you'll never work another day. That's not true. But you'll love life a lot more than you won't. And I used to be an accountant and there was no passion there. That was the worst experience ever. But anyway, I'm rambling. The way that you spoke about directing, you lit up. It was like your soul was lit on fire in a positive way. And that's really awesome of you to be able, despite the imposter syndrome, like you say, the fear, there's also probably positive nerves. Despite, you're the person in charge. You've got so many variables. Despite all of that, you did it. And now you want to do it again. And it's not always going to be, as you said, there's a big cycle, because there's so many things involved in directing that I wouldn't even know. But that passion that you have for it, I'm so glad that you found it, and it's contagious. And also to hear things like it helps your creative process, watching other people. I think that's really important as well, because sometimes we think we have to be a Quentin Tarantino or we have to be this person. Exactly. And you're learning from different people and putting your spin on it. So I know I said a lot, but can you tell me about that? Because, you're obviously very observant as well.
I am. I'm pretty quiet when you first meet me, and I just like to sit back and watch everybody. I just love watching the human experience unfold in front of me. And I'm very interested in psychology, and I think for the same reasons. So I've always been, even as an actor, like one of my very first jobs, I've always been more interested in like Video Village, like the monitors, like where the director sits, like what they're seeing, like how a shot gets set up, like what lens is on there, like what are we shooting in, all of those things, the lighting, just everything that makes that picture. I've always been fascinated with, and I've been able to see some of the best do it. I mean, one of my first feature films was The Virgin Suicides, which was Sofia Coppola's debut, and that I was talk about kid in a candy store. Like Francis would show up to hang out and visit, and he'd like come talk to us, give notes and stuff. It was just an out-of-body experience for me. I just love to see how a filmmaker thinks and how they then make that shot come together. I'm obsessed with DPs, director of photography. They're the ones that make that picture happen. The lighting and the blocking, and it's such a cool thing to me to make all of that come together. So I've been able to watch a lot of really, really, really great people, and obviously with our long run of Criminal Minds, we've had some incredible people come through, like just seasoned directors. And what I am picking up is that that imposter syndrome never goes away. It never goes away, and you don't want it to go away. You don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. That's boring. You always want to learn. You always want to grow. And I think when those butterflies go away, I think that's when you should find something else, So I love it all. And it's just something that I have to do. I have to do it. And I've been lucky enough where I've been given some really great opportunities, and there's some others coming, down the pipe. And I just can't wait to get in there and make it come to life. So I love it. And obviously you're picking that up. I'm trying really hard to contain myself, but it's just, I love it all. I love the process. I love it's a lot of hard work, but it doesn't feel hard to me. It feels rewarding. And I love it. The long hours, all of it. It doesn't feel hard. It just feels rewarding.
Isn't that the key? Because, on paper, the amount of work that you would have to do would be overwhelming for so many. Mm-hmm. But because you love it, you see it in a different light. So it's almost like, go on. Sorry.
I love a challenge. I love problem solving. And I got a little of the OCD too. So it's like, like putting all of these, just like the putting it all together is like so exciting to me. I've never played video games. The only video game I've ever played at and been very successful at is Tetris. You know, it's all about like the putting that picture together, and yeah, I love it. And it's so, yeah, it's long hours, and it can feel like from an outsider looking in, it could look painful to some, but it's not to me. I love it. It's every moment. And like the more I'm looking forward to the challenges, because that's what it's all about. It's like finding the answer to that challenge, because there's always going to be a challenge pop up. And you know, how quickly can you problem solve? Basically is what it comes down to.
You probably feel like when I've had these moments of like, just, I love this, even though it's hard, you probably feel like invincible, not in like a narcissistic sense, like, oh, cool, this is happening, or this is happening. You probably get to appreciate like how strong and powerful as a mind or as a human you are. When you're doing something that you love, but it's challenging, you realize that you're capable of so much more. That would also be super exciting. I don't know if you've ever seen it, look at it in that way.
Yeah. Well, you know what's so cool about directing? I don't know that it's like, oh, I'm so powerful, I did this, because it's actually the opposite for me.
I don't mean it in like, sorry,
no,
I don't mean like I'm the director, I meant within ourselves, we're capable of things we don't know.
Yes.
We didn't know was possible. But anyway, continue.
Absolutely. But I mean, with directing, it truly is, it takes a village, and you're only as strong as your team. And you just have such mad respect for everyone that makes this thing happen every day. Everyone's truly professional and gets their job done, and they care about it as well. And it's such a cool thing to see all of the moving parts happening right before your eyes, because as an actor, you only kind of get to see one side of it. And I will say directing has made me a better actor too, because you see the fuller picture of it. So I don't know. I could go on and on, but I feel like
no, I love it.
I've lost some people now.
But the last thing on that, what I find so interesting is often when we try something new, and because you've been an actor for so long and now you are doing something new, we might feel like, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, you might feel like, oh, I'm just starting out again. But, you know, you've got the experience of acting, and you obviously, you know, have been looking into this for a while. But sometimes when we start something new, you know, you spoke about imposter syndrome and all of that stuff, we can feel like, I don't need to ask anyone. They're going to know that I'm not a good director. I just have to do it all by myself. And people do that, and that's fine. There's no judgment. But you have a nice like shift. You're like, you know what? I'm relatively new. I love it, but I love other people, and I want to hear other people's opinions. That's also, you can comment on this better than me, but you would see a lot of directors be like, I don't want to hear it. I'm doing it. It's my way or the highway. And for you to even like hear, you might not necessarily take on the opinions, but you're at least interested, and realizing that it takes the whole team. That's what makes you also a good director, is, you know, listening and appreciating other people's point of view. That's also a really good outlook, and not letting that imposter syndrome and fear come into play and be like, no, they're going to realize that I can't do this. You've gone the other way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's my Canadian showing. Yeah, I have no ego, like whatsoever. Nice. I could probably use a good dose of an ego at times. But no, for me, just what I have witnessed, it's my experience that the ego can just get in the way of a creative endeavor, because you have to be vulnerable, and the ego is the opposite of being vulnerable. So the times that I have witnessed egos flaring on set, it doesn't end well, and it just feels unnecessary. But again, I mean, to each their own. Everyone has their process and their way of doing things, and go for it. If it works for you, fantastic. But
I like yours, how you appreciate the whole team as well. It's a great outlook for life. You also mentioned OCD, but I also read that you used to, and I'm not sure what the relationship is now, but used to, I'm not sure struggle is the right word, but you've spoken about your relationship with perfectionism. And I find that really interesting because not only as an actor, there's no such thing as perfect. For example, you might only get the one take or the two takes or whatever. And even if you got 100 takes, there's no perfect. Someone will always see it in a different light. And now directing, there is no perfect director. There's always a different way to do it. I'd love to know how you kind of like balance the perfectionism, if it is still a thing that you battle with, and the relationship there.
Yeah, that's always a struggle. I've worked on it a lot. But that it's just something that is there. And I've gotten a lot better at recognizing it as it rears its ugly head in my life as I've gotten older and more mature.
And wiser.
Yeah. And I think that's why, going back to the whole pageant, when I got let go from the show, that was probably the worst part of it. As a perfectionist, I didn't know what to do. I was like, what? Like, that's like the worst thing that could happen to someone that really struggles with that. But that was vital because that helps me work through some of it, because like, what am I going to do? Hide the rest of my life because I got fired and someone thought I wasn't perfect? Like, no one's perfect. Nothing's perfect. And the thing with acting, perfection's boring. No one wants to see a story about a perfect person. That's lame. Like, we want vulnerability. We want cracks to show. We want and there was a time where I was losing out jobs because, I looked a little, oh, well, she's too put together. She's too pretty. She's too this. It's always, she's too something. She's too this. She's too that. And it was when I stopped trying to be this perfect picture of something where I became more human and relatable. That's it right there. You can't relate to something that's trying to pretend to be perfect. Like, that doesn't even make sense. And it's funny to think about it because clearly I have come a long way on it because it doesn't make sense in my head now. So yay. Right. Thank you for making me realize that.
No, thank you for doing the work. I have a quote on you, and it's in relation to this. When you don't resist life, beautiful things happen. And I think you just explained it perfectly now and in that quote, because we all have a bit of perfectionism in us and we think it has to go a certain way. It never will, but just allowing life to happen. And as you said, beautiful things will happen. Can you appreciate your own quote better now?
Absolutely. I think for me, having children has really, that's been the biggest game changer for me. Once you have this like sweet, innocent little thing looking up at you, everything just changes. It just does. And you want to, you don't want them to have the same issues that you had. And so you really start to get into your head about like how I can make this perfect little thing, feel like they're enough. And it's just love, it's all just about love and letting them know that they're loved and there's zero expectation of anything. This is not conditional. This is not a conditional transaction here. Because I think that is a contributor toward perfectionism, is conditional love, where you feel like you have to be a certain way all the time. So having kids just really, it changes your perspective on things. And it really makes you reflect on what your life has been like and what has worked and what hasn't worked. And it truly is like, you gotta just go with it, go with the flow. And life, you gotta trust life. You gotta trust it. You gotta trust that things are taking you in the right direction. And that's so hard at times to just let go, like, Jesus, take the wheel. It's so tough to do that. But I can honestly say, and we all say hindsight is 2020. All of my hindsight situations, it's been just that. It's, you just got to trust it. It hasn't, it feels sticky and difficult and like this couldn't possibly be the way when you're in it, but hindsight tells you something else. So,
and also, you know, it's so nice to like look back and like see those experiences and see how they've kind of helped you. And also having children has obviously been like growth on steroids, just to be able to reflect. Like every time in my life when I've held on too tight, the things have never gone to plan. When I let go, it can be something very small. Like I get a great podcast guest like yourself, like, whoa, this is really cool. The universe is working for me, or whatever people believe in. But every time I've kind of let go, and I haven't had such strong attachment, not that I need something to happen, but it just, whether something happens or not, you just feel so much better. I know it's easier said than done, but what a joy. And that's a lesson that I need to still perfect. I mean,
that's just life. That's life, right? You know, like why waste your time and energy stressing on something you have no control over? But it's something that we like to do, apparently, as humans. It's wild. It's wild.
It has to be a certain way, but no, I think we're so limited in our thinking, and even our subconscious or the world is so far ahead of us that we'll never understand that there is so much out there. And the way we think something has to happen, that's just coming through all of our, like, how we see the world if we want to achieve something through such a limited scope. But then, you know, like, for example, as a director, when you get to speak to so many different people, you can realize, oh, I could actually approach it this way. Yeah, anyway, I've just gone on a ramble. I think it's beautiful. Before we do a rapid fire segment, actually, this is going to be the worst transition in history. You said hindsight's 2020. I know that I think, were you legally blind and then you went through?
Yeah. Yeah. I was that poor little kid with Coke bottle glasses at a very young age. And I was a dancer too, which made it even worse because, like, I had these huge thick glasses on and, you know, I'd have to take them off in order to dance. So I couldn't really see what I was doing. That was, that was something else. I would do a lot of like stage performances, obviously, as a dancer. And like, whenever we'd go to these new stages, I would have to go out with my glasses on so I could kind of like map out the stage before I had to take my glasses off and go out in hopes that I wouldn't like fall off the stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was very blind.
And I think you got some form of surgery, and we'll have to talk about this another time. But I know that from what I've heard that, you know, you had some self-esteem stuff and you were bullied because you couldn't see, and that would have obviously been very hard. What was that feeling like once you could see better? Did some of that stuff get resolved?
Well, it was contact implants because I was too blind to get LASIK. So it was like cutting edge technology. So I was like one of the first ones to get it done. And it was just so important to me that before I had children, I wanted to have my eyes fixed. So I didn't have to wake up in the middle of the night and try to find my glasses before I could like deal with my child, with my baby. So it meant so much to me to be able to get that done before I had Makai, my oldest. So it was a real game changer for me. It changed my whole life. So yeah, I'm forever grateful for that. Because I thought I tried to get LASIK and I was told that I wasn't a candidate and that I could never get it done. So I kind of, but they didn't tell me that until the very last second. So my hopes were just way up here. And then it just boom, shattered me that I found out that I couldn't get it done. So when this came up, it was like, it was truly, it saved me. It really did. It saved me. And it really changed how I went forward in life. Yeah. I could see I was no longer blind. I was no longer legally blind. It's funny. I'll try to explain to my husband what that looked like what my eyesight was. And the best way I could describe it is like, it just, everything was just like a smear of colors, like not even shapes. Like it was just like a big smear of color. It was that blind.
Could you see people's faces?
I'd have to get like way up close. And even then it was probably a little blurry.
Wow. What
but
age?
Like there was no like definition either. It was like just colors kind of smeared into colors, you know? So it was wild to think back, because I've had good eyesight now for so long that now I really understand how blind I was.
Well,
if that makes sense. Yeah.
What age were you when you got it?
I was in my 20s.
Oh, wow. And you're still pursuing acting. That's so interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I wore contacts I started wearing contacts very, very young because I was a dancer. And then I always had to wear contacts, which, that took its toll on my eyes as well. But, I'm so happy that I was able to get that fixed, because that truly, that was a huge boost in self-esteem and in confidence, and just being able to open my eyes and go for the day and see, just the gift of sight.
Now you can appreciate sight even more. That's wild. I don't even know what to say, like, to be that blind and now, pursuing acting. I think that's also pretty courageous, because you have to read, see what's going on, and to still do that. And you would have, I know that I read this before, that you felt that you weren't smart, because why would you think you are if you can't read? And also, this is a side grant school. You're taught to be smart in only one area, and that's more like academics, but that's a side point. But, despite all that, you obviously loved acting and you still pursued it. That's very interesting. Could you speak more to that? Because that's, I would imagine me is like, in that age, you're like, no, I can't do it, and I'm not going to do it, even though it's something that I like.
Yeah. Oh, I had no choice. I had to do it. It was a survival for me, because I was such a shy, sort of introverted, like shut down child, that I needed it. Like, if I didn't have dance, I don't know what would have happened. I just always had to be performing in some kind of way. It was an outlet, because I didn't know how to be myself, and it was easier to step into other people's shoes and at least get to pretend to be them for a little bit. And I've always loved that idea of just getting to experience what other people are thinking and feeling. And it's funny, as an adult, I've noticed that, I am so open to any and all opinions. I'm not, offended. You can't offend me. Because it's someone's opinion, and it's like, that's your opinion and you are allowed to have that. I don't need to have the same opinion. They don't need to have the same opinion as you. We are all allowed to think our own thing, and I'm not going to be offended because you feel differently. And I've always been very open to other ways of thinking, mainly because I think I felt a little lost I was a middle child, and there's a lot going on at all times, and because I was like the Coke bottle glasses, and I just wanted to not be seen because I wasn't very confident. That I just was so fascinated by people that weren't that, and acting and performing and dance, it gave me that outlet to release all the things I was thinking and feeling on the inside, but wasn't allowed to say or feel. So it was truly survival for me. Like I had to do it. I still do. I mean, it's not as much now because I've been able to work through some of those things. But still, I love the human experience in all shapes and forms, and people are fascinating to me, and I love getting to experience someone else's experience. It's kind of cool.
You know what you are? You're an advocate for life, and that's the highest compliment. That is, I've got another quote which just kind of ties into what you're saying before we do the rapid fire. We can talk about, we'll have to dive in another time, but I just want to know what your thoughts are on this. This is your quote, another beautiful one. Oh, no. I fell in love. I think this is about acting and a few other things. I fell in love. I found my home. If I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be to stop making yourself so small. You deserve to take up space and be heard. Fearing what people might think of you is a waste of time and energy. Pretty profound. What springs to mind?
Well, I'm going to cry hearing that because I think I did need to hear that again. That's the thing. It's a constant lesson and relearning in life. It's like when you think you've learned something, things evolve, and life, there's layers. There's so many layers to that. And those are some. I was in a really good place when I said that, I think. It's so true. It's such a waste of time making yourself small. But that's not even, I shouldn't even say that, because it's just survival. You're just trying to survive. You're living your life in the way you know how. And sometimes by making yourself small, it's necessary for whatever the situation. And I think the sooner you realize that you can take control of your life, you are stronger and have more power than you even realize. That's a powerful thing to realize about yourself. I think every child, every adult needs to be reminded.
Especially adults, actually.
Yeah. Stop making yourself small. You deserve to take up space.
We're going to get you as a co-host because you are killing it. What we're going to do now is a rapid fire segment. So the first thing that springs to mind, but please take your time. And I won't comment on them because I always derail them.
I don't think you do that. You don't derail.
That's why you're going to be co-host.
You further the conversation on.
Thank you. It takes great guests. Okay, we'll start here. I saw that you are, you were, I don't know if you still are, a board member of the Innocent Lives Foundation. Mm-hmm. What is it and what does it mean to you?
Innocent Lives Foundation, they are a necessary foundation. They are white hat hackers. They're the good guys that take down the bad guys online, pedophiles, sex trafficking. They are they're like Garcia on our show. They take down the bad guys. And yes, I did sit on the board with them for years. And what they do is worthy. So if you haven't checked out what they do, please do. Innocent Lives Foundation. They it's such a tricky, touchy subject. Just like it's just a tough thing to talk about.
That it exists in the world was.
Yeah, but it's such a it's so taboo. Like, how do you start talking about pedophilia and, that's happening, and sex trafficking that's happening? It's a tough thing to bring up in a conversation, but these guys, what they're doing is 150% worthy of your time and any money that you can put toward it. They're the good guys. So
I'm glad that I love the word white hat, and I'm glad that you were involved, and I heard an interview with them and the team, and they sound lovely. And I know you already said a bit horrific that this stuff is out there, and it's amazing to know that
it's dark.
Yeah, and I'm sure you would have seen it also from the Criminal Minds aspect. I'm pretty sure most of it is not just based on true stories.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Life is even weirder than what we can show on TV. No joke. It's, if you can think it, someone's done it. Think about that for a minute. Yeah, it's wild.
And luckily, I know you said it, and I'll stop rambling, but luckily we've got people where, we can support, I don't know if they're a charity, but we can support organizations like that and not be so deeply involved, because that's something that holy moly, to think. Also, it takes such a great human. This is just a side point. To know that exists, they're seeing the worst in humanity, and they're still going with, like, I assume a smile, like, getting one person off the streets, and I know they've done a lot more than that. What a champion. Like, that's the actual definition of a hero. We throw a hero around a lot, but that's a hero.
No, these guys and gals that do this, it's a tough job, and it takes its toll on you. It did on me, and I can't say enough about what they are doing and their mission. I wish I could be more for them, but it's a dark world. It is a dark, dark world, and there needs to be some light thrown on it desperately.
Agreed. And I'm not, this is going to sound horrific, and I know how it's going to sound leaving out of my mind, but that even goes to, for example, like failure and some of the topics we've spoken about. That's a dirty word for some, but by shining a light on taboo, and obviously this is way more extreme and necessary, that's actually how I believe you change the world, or you change someone's mindset, even to just plant a seed that, there's good stuff happening, and you can see the world through another light as well. So,
well, this is kind of like one of my theories on life is, there's always darkness. Darkness is always there. It's never going anywhere.
Yeah.
But we get to have the opportunity to be the light. And how do you get rid of darkness? You turn on the light. And the more we show up with our light, the less darkness there is. And I think it sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. If we want darkness to go away, then, like, turn on your light and let it shine.
I agree.
And that's like real cheesy to some people, that, some people have a really hard time with certain personalities that are light and, like, bubbly. And I have a friend who's very, she's a light, and she has a lot of energy, and she knows that about herself. And I always tell her, I'm like, don't ever dim your light, because you're making someone uncomfortable. No, just always be you. The world needs more light.
I agree 10,000%. And I'm just going to make a comment that we'll move on. This is not about politics or anything like that. I think we're living, and I know that it's very hard for a lot of people, and we all have ups and downs. But why I think this is a really exciting time in human history is that we're seeing so much darkness, whereas we didn't see it before. And we kind of have to unravel the darkness to be able to move forward and, shine that light. Whereas we could have said, I don't know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever the timing is, that this darkness wasn't existent. It's only just, no, it was always there, and it's come to light.
Darkness
and now
is always there.
Yeah. And now we're aware of it, and I think that's brilliant. Anyway, moving on. We can all do it. Your husband has a clothing line. Can you tell me about it?
Yes, he does. It's called Walter Sky. And we're a big like outdoorsy nature kind of a family, and he's always grown up, doing these wild canyoneering hikes. Like he's amazing. And he kind of got frustrated with what was out there and available as far as, clothing that can stand up to the rigors of true canyoneering and hiking. And he just has a very active lifestyle. So he created his own line, and it's just staple clothing that don't look like you're wearing your dad's clothing to go hiking. They're clothes that you can wear anywhere. Staples, like as far as t-shirts, pants, shorts, all just really well made, high quality. They stand the test of time. You can go on a week hike with it, or you can wear it to work. It's pretty standard and pretty basic. So yeah,
good on him. And we'll put a link I'll put a website link in the episode notes so people can check it out.
And I apologize if he sold out. He sells out of everything very quickly, which is not a bad thing, but still.
Oh, good. Congratulations. That's amazing. Did you ever think, I think your first role was a McDonald's commercial. Did you ever think from that moment that you would, have your career and be directing now?
I mean, I had hoped and dreamed. I've always been a dreamer. I've always knew that I was supposed to do this in some way, shape, or form. So it wasn't even like a, oh, I wonder if. It was just, well, yeah, I'm going to go do this. And I've been very lucky and very fortunate to be at the right place, right time. And here we are, and it's funny because you can get really impatient at times as an actor, like when is it going to come? Like, you get so close to so many things, but it doesn't happen, and you can get really down on that. But again, it's just trusting that journey and trusting that you're being taken down the right road at that right moment. So
I agree. I'm not going to comment on them because I want to keep on. That was great. If you could have any superhero power, what would it be and why?
I don't even know. I don't know if anything good would come of it. My first response was like, oh, it would be nice to just know what people were truly thinking. But then I'm like, I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would really change much. I'm a very intuitive person. So like I feel a lot of things. And I think that's why I would like to know what people are thinking, because I feel so heavily. And a lot of the times I'm wrong because I always think it's something I did. Usually has nothing to do with me. But I don't know that would help out in any way. You know what I mean? For the greater good.
I always go back and forth within this, but I feel like being the intuitive person that you are, you would still be able to feel what someone's going through. So you kind of have that anyway.
I guess, but I'm always second guessing myself about like, oh, well, is this something I did? And, just dumb things like that, where it's just a waste of energy.
Yeah. That was actually my next question, which is crazy. How important is your intuition for you?
It's, you know what? It's very important. I feel like as an artist and a creative, I feel like it's very important, but as I mature, I'm still learning what to do with it. I'm still learning how to decode it, and just listening to it without putting too much into it, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's exactly where I'm at as well. What are you most proud of?
Oh, my family. Yeah, my beautiful little family I have, and just the sense of normalcy we have. We truly have a great private normal life, and Part of me doesn't even want to say it out loud because it's like we've been so fortunate, but we've also made a lot of very deliberate choices in order to have this life. And I feel very proud of the choices we've made in order to provide that to our boys and for my husband and for myself to just have a normal life is everything.
You're living the dream. Amazing. What would you do if you knew you cannot fail?
Oh gosh. Everything. No, I would, just because of what I'm in right now, just with trying to get these projects off the ground and, you know, get these projects written and produced and financed and made and directed. And I would do all of that, knowing that it can't fail, which that's how I should just look at it anyway. But it's hard to do that.
I think they're all going to go very beautifully, especially with your energy as well. You've answered this one. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
I mean, I could use this advice too right now. Just know it's so cliche, but you're stronger than you give yourself credit for. You are. And if you fail, don't look at it as failure. Look at it as, okay, what's next? That way didn't work. Good. Let's cross that off the list. What's the next way? That's, nothing's perfect. Perfection doesn't exist. And just try to enjoy the process of it. And if you're truly passionate about it, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you're passionate about it. You love it. You can't fail.
As I said, I'm not even joking anymore. You are my co-host. It's gonna have your name on it. Second last one.
By the way, I am these are all words of advice I need too. Like I'm literally giving myself advice through all of this.
Isn't that the best advice?
I am not perfect. Like I am so far, and I'm just a scared little girl most of the time that's afraid to make mistakes and afraid of all the things everyone is afraid of. So I need this more than anyone right now.
Well, on that, there's so much I can say. You're very humble. And your energy is lovely. There's so many things to say, but we can all do with a lot of positivity and love and shining the light. Anyway, I'll give you a massive compliment at the end. Otherwise, I'll just give you too many. I know you said you didn't have an ego, so I don't want to give you an ego by the end of it. But you're doing life great.
Oh, thank you.
I saw it. I couldn't tell if the interviewer. Anyway. How often do people think you're an FBI agent? Because I actually saw someone interviewing you and they were thinking that you were JJ and not AJ. And I would imagine this comes up a lot.
Well, I think it's just confusing in general because JJ and AJ, I think people just kind of cross over the two names all the time. Yep. But also too, when you've been doing a show for this long, I think I fall into that category too. I think sometimes, hey, yeah, I could profile a thing or two if I wanted to. But no, I couldn't. The people that actually do this for a living are brilliant and so good at what they do. And there's a certain personality. You have to have a certain thing that I don't have. I could never do that for a living. I don't have that grit that I'm too sensitive for it. I'm way too sensitive for it. But I have picked up a lot of things along the way. I've learned things that I never wanted to learn. I've learned that I've seen the darker side of things, which I think is important to truly learn and to understand the opposite side of it. The light and the greatness of things. There's an opposite in everything. So those lessons I've had to learn on the darker negative side have only made me lighter and more positive in the long run.
That is a great perspective. Last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What is the one question I should have asked you?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
The hardest one.
Yeah. Sheesh. Man, what's the best answer you've heard for that one?
There's no such thing as best answer.
Or like an answer where you were like, oh, that's good.
The last one I did, and I just find it funny. You're not going to find it funny, but someone asked, how old are my kids? And I'm like, I don't think I can ask you that like straight out the bat. That's not like, I'm very aware that I love children. I know how that might sound, but I love like my family's children. I don't have children, but my cousins all have children.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's a question I could have asked.
Yeah, you're not going to lead with that.
No.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah, they were like, we had a good laugh about it. I don't think he got what I was saying, but that was just the last one that springs to mind.
God, I don't know. I guess honestly, I have no idea. I think you asked all of the right questions, and no, I'm not going to end this and think, oh man, he should have asked me about this or that. No.
So this is the new best answer. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
No, it's a terrible answer.
No.
There you go. The non-answer answer.
The non-answer is a great answer. Before we go, how can people follow you and keep up to date with you?
Oh, well, good luck with that. No, no, I am on Instagram. Just AJ Cook, I think is what it is. Just AJ Cook. Yeah, and we literally just wrapped the 17th season of Criminal Minds Evolution. So I feel a little tired. So sorry if I'm a little, my brain feels a little like, woo, but we just wrapped, and the show is premiering. The 17th season will be premiering on June 6th on Paramount Plus. That's like right around the corner. Yeah, so that's where you can find me. Oh, and I also I had the opportunity to do an audiobook for the first time. Yes. And it's called One of Our Own, and it is a haunting story by Lucinda Berry. And if you get a chance, you can find that on your favorite, Audible, Amazon, wherever you go to get your audiobooks. But it's a worthy listen. It's a story that's not told very often, and I find it very interesting, the ending of it. And it's just an impossible story for a parent. Yeah, so check that out. If you've
sold it to me.
It's a quick one. It's a quickie. Nice. Yeah.
Cool.
So I think that's it. And then hopefully you'll see me out there directing soon and producing, and
I'm very excited.
Things are coming.
We'll put all of that in the episode notes below. Thank you so much. You're an advocate for life. I love you're extremely inspiring and motivating. And there's so many things I could say, but I love how, despite like challenges you've gone in your life, you've done the work, you've walked or ran through or whatever you want to say. And yeah, you're, as I said, advocate for life. It's beautiful. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, this has been lovely. Like I said, your podcast has such a nice positive spin on such an ugly word, failure. But yeah, I think failure is a good thing. We need failure in order to become who we're meant to be. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. And we'll send out a contract and you'll be the next co-host.
Yeah. Woo!
Amazing. Thank you.
I love how AJ talks about the industry and how often one can be left feeling that they have to be someone or something which does not ultimately serve their best interest. Often in life, we think to be successful, we must adjust our behaviors and emulate a certain ideal. There's nothing wrong with this, and in fact, I encourage wanting to strive and improve However, being something we are not takes away from our individuality. Letting go of who others expect us to be allows us to see and feel more clearly so we can move forward in our best possible way. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.